Folks, what's going on? Welcome back to the battlefields of Total War Warhammer 2. The Warden and the Paunch has launched. Yes, that is a Paunch launch, straight out of Grom's gut and into your face. It is available on Steam and has been since 3 p.m. British summertime, which I guess was morning for me this morning. But in any case, yeah, we've got it. And I wanted to play some multiplayer. I jumped into ladder. I got to play a couple battles today. I'll try to be playing more. And then obviously I want to play a bunch of team battles with the folks from my Discord. I tried to do that earlier, but the game crashed. Hopefully that's not something that's been introduced in the patch that we are unaware of so far. I mean, like, the game was going completely fine, and then we all literally just crashed to Windows with no warning whatsoever. So yeah, let's hope that that's not a thing. I'm playing High Elves, as I mentioned. They were a faction I was pretty hot on for multiplayer early in Warhammer 2, and then I wasn't so hot on them more recently, and so I'm pretty excited to get back to them. They've got some new tools, mostly in multiplayer as far as new tools. I've actually got quite a few of those new tools right here, right now, which is Silver and Guard, which, again, when I first tried this DLC, I wasn't real high on, but I've since changed my mind. And then Rangers, a unit I'm trying to do a little bit more testing and get some experience with, and Greenskin is a faction where I feel like Rangers do have a purpose. I'm still rocking the Fireborn, and let's take a look at the rest of my army. As far as the units, I've got 2 Silver and Guard up front. These guys have expert charge defense. They negate the charge of everything, and that's a big deal against the Greenskins because the Greenskins have a lot of high charge units and monsters and other stuff, trolls, snotling wagons, all that stuff that's going to be rolling around the battlefield. So Silver and Guard make an interesting center. They are somewhat resistant to magic damage, and they have a silver shield to help resist missiles as well. Now, when it comes to my other units, I've got a couple spearmen in the back. These are just our standard High Elf spearmen. Decent unit to try and keep back light cavalry and help hold the flanks. In the center, in reserve, I have a Swordmaster of Hoeth, who is meant to deal with any real heavy infantry play that comes in, because the Silver and Guard won't be able to handle something like a Black Orc. As far as range damage, I do have 1 Sister of Avalorn, easier to guard with just the 1. And then I have 2 heavy cavalry teams here. I've got 1 unit of Silver Helms, and I have the Fireborn. Now, it could be interesting to replace these guys with War Lions of Crace sometimes, but right now I felt like taking the Silver Helms. And then, of course, for my Lord, Caster, Hero, all-in-one, because he is very expensive, I have Teclis on his Arcane Phoenix mount. And Teclis is going to be very good. Now, as for the Lord, I do have Teclis on his Arcane Phoenix mount. The Arcane Phoenix mount is really cool, looks cool, makes Teclis really strong, but I do kind of have to wonder about it as whether it was necessary. He's very, very powerful on it, and he was already a good lord. I mean, it would certainly make him more interesting to play in campaign, but the repercussions of this in multiplayer is probably interesting, though I'm not really an expert on multiplayer, so I'll let more familiar people discuss that. But, you know, just right off the bat, I'm not sure that that was something that was necessary. Let's take a look at the Greenskin army that I'm up against. They have some goblins up front. This is a pretty solid choice as expendable units. They can help get into melee and help fill up the WA meter, because remember, the WA meter has been reworked. Those 3 goblins are interspersed with some Night Goblins. Night Goblins are a cool unit with some poison. Not a bad unit. I honestly kind of prefer the Fanatic version, because their Fanatics actually can cause pretty significant damage, especially to a double-layered army, and at least can help get rid of some of the martial prowess on the High Elf units. My opponent has chosen a couple of Stone Trolls. Now, these are very high damage output trolls at 120 weapon damage, higher than your standard variant by a good bit. He's got 2 of those. He's got a giant River Troll Hag here, and I want to make sure you all see the abilities on this River Troll Hag, because it's important to see this. She does have Mither here, which is a very powerful hex. It's basically like a Rune of Wrath and Ruin. It's going to slow you down big time when you come in. And then he's got Soul Blight and Spirit Leech. And I'm going to actually pause it for just a second so we don't miss any of this action. As for a Lord, he's got Grom the Paunch out here. I feel like Grom is a pretty risky pick versus the High Elves, because while Grom is a very good Lord overall, and he can cause a lot of damage, the High Elves have a lot of fire damage in the form of dragons and Phoenix units, and that makes Grom a particularly vulnerable target because he has the regeneration trait and gives him a plus 25 weakness to fire damage. And you can see that Teclis has fire damage here, so this is kind of a big concern for Grom. I mean, otherwise, nothing wrong with this pick per se, because he is fairly powerful. There's a Goblin Doomdiver catapult in the back, and then a bunch of Snotling pump wagons that he is attempting a flanking maneuver with. It's an interesting choice of unit to attempt a flank maneuver. I would really want them to back up my infantry, which is exactly why I've positioned my cavalry where it is, because I figured I would have Snotling wagons tearing right through my main lines. And as far as my lines go, for the most part, I'll try and let my Silvering Guard take a charge. If I don't, then I am making a mistake. And I want to point out something right here. I started firing at the Stone Trolls with my Sisters of Avalorn, who have magical ammunition. Stone Trolls have 25% magic resistance. So they are resisting some of the shots from my Sisters of Avalorn, but I still figured they would probably be the best target. We'll find out whether or not I was right. Just something I wanted to point out, that Stone Trolls do have the magic resistance. A couple of quick charges with my cavalry. I was trying to disrupt their infantry. You can see that I did not counter-charge. I let my Silvering Guard absorb the charge, but I did charge with my Rangers. And I'm going to go ahead and go down in with Teclis for a minute and try and do a little bit of damage to the Night Goblins to see if I can slow down the advance of the Greenskins. Now, these Trolls taking a fight with the Fireborn, very close. And remember, Fireborn, flaming damage on a Regenerate unit, not what the Stone Trolls want to do. So that was definitely a mistake for the Greenskins. You can see Grom gets in here and just starts absolutely savaging my Rangers. I dropped a net on him a little bit early, but using Teclis to stop a key enemy unit is one of his strengths, but now he can back it up with massive armor-piercing damage, and that's exactly what I intend to do. Grom was held in position long enough for me to get over there, though now he's technically free. Now you can see the Silvering Guard do a pretty solid job for the most part, holding back a lot of infantry with troll support. They're still holding the ground up front, even though they're outmatched pretty thoroughly. And over here, a Goblin Wolf Rider came after the Sisters. The Sisters can hold off a Goblin Wolf Rider for long enough. And then I had a Swordmaster that was fighting nearby as well, so it's a risky position for the Wolves to be in. The Snotling wagons were still in a group, and I managed to tie them all down with my Silver Helms. This is not where you want Snotling wagons to be. They do have armor piercing, but they're meant to go against infantry targets, and I had a Spearman help support. Now you can see here my Silvering Guard did lose under the combined pressure of the Trolls and the Night Goblins, despite being anti-large and and not taking any charge damage. And you can see here, holding the Swordmasters in reserve has turned out to be a good pick. My opponent's Doomdiver catapult has been oddly targeted on Teclis for the entire battle, and it's allowing my Swordmaster of Hoeth to do some massive damage. Now, over here, I was a little bit surprised to see that Grom, with the help of the giant Riverhole Hag and the archers, really started to push Teclis back. But one thing about Teclis is that he can really heal a lot these days, and he will be healing a lot. I'm going to use a net again to hold Grom in position because he's getting greedy to get after these Sisters. I've got a Potion of Sheroi. It's going to give me damage resistance, and Grom is in big trouble here. I continue to use my cavalry to just hold back the Snotling wagons and the Trolls. I've freed up Spearmen, and my Swordmasters of Hoeth are now here to help reinforce the Fireborn Dragon Princes, and the Greenskins are going to suffer a rout because Grom gets KO'd by Teclis. That fire damage was too much, and even though Teclis has taken a lot of damage, he can still heal a whole heck of a lot. I'm surprised those Doomdivers hit Teclis as much as they have. They've hit him fairly consistently, so I don't know, maybe it's not crazy that he was targeting Teclis. I feel like he should have been targeting the Swordmasters and the Sisters of Avalorn to get his money's worth, because Teclis can regenerate so much hit points, it feels like a waste. Even right here, look, I got a regrowth. So I'm going to go up here and hit my healing cap eventually, so all the money that he's pouring into hurting Teclis is just being healed off. A little bit late in the battle, probably should have used one of these earlier, but I had my Fiery Convocation, hoping that he may not notice. It does look like he had started to move his archers, but it was too late. They took a little bit of damage from the Fiery Convocation, nothing too crazy. The Rangers are pushing him. My Fireborn have broken out. They've gotten a ton of kills this battle and are now able to chase off routing units, and will eventually be able to shut down the catapult. But because the catapult has been targeting Teclis, it really hasn't been that big of a threat to my army. You can see 107 kills here on the Swordmasters of Hoeth, and they are doing quite well. The Sisters got attacked multiple times, but have still managed to come back, and they've managed to put a chevron on during this battle as well, so they've clearly dealt some pretty significant damage throughout. At this point, my opponent's army is pretty much broken. His leadership's still just barely hanging on. Not going to hold on for much longer, though. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the end of this one. So, in this case, is my army perfect? No. But it was well suited to the task at hand here. I think my opponent made a few key mistakes here that he could have tried to make better on. One is the targeting of the Doom Diver at Teclis. It did do quite a bit of HP damage to him, but Teclis is kind of a mess right now. Teclis is a mess. There's really no amount of burst damage or anything else that can kill him. You would have to hit him so hard with a goon squad, and I mean hard, because if he turns on, say, like Regrowth and a Potion of Troy, he's now going to get 1,800 hit points of healing while at 44% damage resistance. The guy is really hard to kill, and remember, he can net you on top of all that. And so Teclis is, like I said, a bit of a mess for the Greenskins to deal with. It is not going to be easy. I'm kind of thinking they should probably reconsider Teclis flying around on an Arcane Phoenix to begin with, because I think it gives him too much capability as a duelist when that really wasn't his lore, nor his, MO. I think his MO was all about being an awesome caster. So, yeah, it's an interesting choice. Don't know what to make of it. Anyway, it's going to be tough for the Greenskins. Let's look at a few key units here. My Rangers, they did okay. They both got a decent number of kills. Neither one picked up a Chevron, so I don't know what to make of that. I mean, okay here. Nothing super impressive. My Silverin Guard didn't get that many kills, but in my opinion, these units did their job quite well. They helped nullify the charge of some very potent infantry combined with trolls. The Night Goblins, I say very potent. Not crazy, but when you combine any unit with these trolls, it's going to hurt. And so I feel like the Silverin Guard paid its dues here in holding up the enemy army for as long as it did, taking all those charges, providing safety for the Sword Masters of Hoeth, who then were just unleashed on an absolute killing spree against the Greenskins, and were able to do a great job. I'm surprised how much work the Snotling Wagons got done, despite being hit by Silverhelms, and you can see the Silverhelms didn't kill many models out of the Snotling Wagons. They eventually just had leadership trouble, was all there was to it. So the Snotling Wagons did do better than I expected they would. Fireborn did a good job of slowing down trolls and chasing off routing enemy units. Again, let's talk about what went right, what went wrong. My opponent, I think, should have targeted the Sisters of Avalorn. He had a range advantage. Sit back, target the Sisters, damage them with your Goblin Catapult, and then start targeting the Sword Masters if the Sisters get weak enough. I think he had the right idea, trying to get his Wolf Riders into the Sisters. They were fairly well protected, but I think he had the right idea there. As far as combining Gobbo Fanatics and other units with a Snotling Pump Wagon, I think that would have been a sound play. I don't think putting the Pump Wagons alone on a flank is a good play. These are not units that function well in a vacuum. They're going to do better when they have some cheap Gobbos to help protect them. And then say the Stone Trolls, for instance, might have been a more interesting pick to run in the flank. I'm not recommending that per se from the Greenskins. I think you'd be a lot better off to have just picked Boar Boy Biggins. So I don't like the pick of Stone Trolls in this particular matchup because the High Elves have so much anti-large capability and archers. I wouldn't want to pick the Trolls. The Snotling Wagons I kind of agree with because he could have combined them with the infantry. Doom Diver, it depends on how badly you want to control the ranged fight. Could be a good unit sometimes for the Greenskins, maybe sometimes not. I do like the pick of the giant river troll hag with her Mither ability right now. She's kind of a given in the Greenskin army. It's extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. Error Boys, stuff like this. Again, not sure about this pick, especially when you need the Wa to build up. Maybe he just wanted a little bit of range support. I don't know. Let's check out another battle I had. Let's talk about it. And then I want to kind of sum up a few thoughts I have just very briefly, very early on, about High Elves versus Greenskins. But here we go. Let's go to the second match. All right, for the second matchup, I wanted to do something different. I brought similar infantry. I still have the 2 Silverin Guard, 2 Spearmen, 1 Swordmaster, 2 Rangers. But I brought Tyrion, and Tyrion does have Sunfang, and he's also got his, I'm going to slow this down, he's got his Rebirth ability, Heart of Avalorn here, that kind of gives him the chance to regenerate when he gets down really low. I brought a Metal Mage, which I don't know if it's always a good pick against Greenskins, but I had specific thoughts in mind with it that I'll explain. I do have 2 Lothern Seaguard with shields, a pretty expensive archer unit, but the intent of these units was to basically be impervious to light cavalry from the Greenskins, while still being able to provide archer support, and in a last-ditch scenario, being okay in melee. So that's how the army swapped up a little bit. I still have the Fireborn, but I traded the Silverhelm for a War Lions of Trace this time. And I did this because these units, unless they get caught by boar boys, should be decent against a lot of greenskin targets. And so that's why I swapped in the lions. I just wanted to see how they performed. Now my opponent is over here, and he has brought an orc war boss riding on a boar. It's an interesting choice. Would have expected this one with all the different things that have been changed recently in the patches and stuff. But yeah, an orc war boss. In the back, he's got some goblin archers, and they are supporting a goblin rock lobber. There's a couple of black orcs way back in the back, and then up front, he's got orc boys, and he's spent a considerable amount of money. There's more goblin archers here on the Debigan rogue idol. Now, this thing is kind of like a greenskin Cygor that is just incredibly good in melee against infantry blobs, and his missile strength is very high. It's a very powerful unit, and he can cause a lot of tremendous damage. Just look at my Fireborn here. He got one rock in there, and just look at the devastating hit. It's not counting all those kills for him for some reason. I don't know why, but I've lost 9 unit models. That is horrible for me on a unit as expensive as the Fireborn, and I don't have healing, and even if I did, I've lost the unit model. So my opponent gets an interesting start there with Debigan. He's going to charge some Spider Riders in to disrupt my formation. Give his Biggin and his Rock his Rock Lobber had the other kills, so that's why I didn't show on the Rogue Idol, my bad. But anyway, you can see what he's targeting. And it's a smart target. He's getting some major value on his 2 units right now, especially the Rock Lobber because it's cheaper. But his Rogue Idol is doing some damage. And my Sword Masters, I expect, are going to become a target of his attention as well. My opponent also had a couple of Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers. I'm kind of just ignoring them for the most part. In fact, I accidentally leave the Spearman here. That was a micro mistake. I moved the rest of my army forward and missed those whenever I selected my units, so this is clearly a mistake on my part. As I draw near to my opponent, I am going to charge with the Rangers, and I'm going to take my Silverin Guard in as well. You're probably better off to leave these units still, but up against Orc Boys, I knew I wouldn't lose that fight even on the charge, so I went ahead and took the charge. But again, the Silverin Guard can negate an infantry charge. Now I've got Rangers, Lions, and Spearmen moving up a flank, along with the Fireborn, who are just being absolutely hunted and nearly annihilated. My Metal Mage comes forward a little bit dangerously here, but she does have speed to be able to get away. I initially take Tyrion in and beat up on these Orc Boys a little bit to help my Silverin Guard. And I'm getting close to making some decisions here. I'm being approached by Black Orcs over here. I've got a Black Orc coming into this fight. This particular one over here, I hit it with an upgraded Plague of Rust, and now you can see it's only 50 armor. And then I'm going to support this Swordmaster fight just briefly with with Tyrion, but the Orc War Boss comes in, and that's a pretty gutsy play because Tyrion is a very powerful lord and can tank out a tremendous amount of damage and return it. And you can see here that he is doing just that, despite the fact that the Orc War Boss is buffing the nearby troops. And so you can see that my Swordmasters are doing well. Tyrion is just absolutely slapping that War Boss like a redheaded stepchild. And my Lothern Sea Guard have actually caused a lot of damage to the Black Orcs because of their lack of armor here. Meanwhile, my Lions of Krace got back here, disrupted a bunch of Gobbo archers, and drew the attention of some Spider Riders that regrouped, so they're doing a good job. But this leaves Debigan back here to just continue to throw giant rocks into the fight with me, and it has caused some damage. My Swordmasters have taken some HP damage, so I pulled Tyrion out of the fight because the War Boss was gone, and swing him over here to start fighting Debigan. This will get him to quit throwing his rocks. And it's also giving the Greenskins something to think about. And look at this, the Black Orc lost in melee up against a Ranger and a Silverin Guard because of Plague of Rust. That's a pretty big deal, not something to be underestimated. I've also had my Metal Mage do a little bit of magic. I also have the, I think it's Transmutation of Lead. And if I haven't used it here in this fight already, I'm about to help my Swordmasters. And Tyrion is an absolute tank, folks. He's an absolute unit. This Rogue Idol can pump out some serious damage, and Tyrion's just sitting here, taking him head-to-head, and he's finally got the support of some Spearmen, which will help tremendously, but he's done an amazing job. The Swordmasters of Hoet are actually clutching this battle for me right now with the support of the Metal Mage and Tyrion. They're able to really push through a whole lot of Greenskin infantry. I think they are slightly superior to Black Orcs, maybe, in melee combat, especially whenever the Martial Prowess is on, or they may have Martial Mask. No, they're a Martial Prowess unit. So yeah, with martial prowess on, they're probably the superior unit, but that hasn't been on for a little while now. It was really the support of Tyrion and the Metal Mage that helped them tank that, so I feel like the Metal Mage paid off here. You all didn't get to see it a ton, but that Plague of Rust on the Black Orc over here led to its demise in a situation where it would have otherwise done well, and allowed my Lothern Sea Guard to cause some excess damage that they wouldn't have done. My War Lions have just run around eating archers all day long. They're up to 140 kills, and then Tyrion has been the tank that I needed him to be. The Greenskin Lord who came after him was quite foolish to think that Tyrion was going to be that easily dispatched. He isn't. Tyrion is very strong, and when you get him down low, he has that chance to get a whole bunch of hit points back. I did use Sun Fang once that was not caught on camera against some Orc boys, and it helped some of my infantry cut through the Orc boys a little quicker, so Sun Fang did come in handy in that regard. So in this case, again, also worked out nice for me, though, to be fair, I think my opponent's army could have been slightly better chosen here to help him in this matchup. I don't think Orc boys are necessarily a horrible choice, just probably not in the numbers that you have here. I would have wanted to see probably a mix of, like, I would have gotten rid of some of the, just the standard Spider Riders and some of these Gobbo Archers. In fact, I'll show you all what I would recommend a little more highly versus the High Elves. I'm not saying it will win you every battle, but I've got a couple of builds to show you. An Orc War Boss here, I guess is okay if you're trying to save some cash. There's certainly a lot better options there for a Greenskin Lord right now, and not the one that I would pick. You've got Wurzag with Effigy to Get, who can stop people. You combine that with something like Mither from the Troll Hag, and They Need Stabbin', or whatever it's called, from the Gobbo Big Bosses. I mean, there's all the stuff he can combine, and he wasn't using any of it here. And I think that he early on hit my Fireborn really well. Did some good damage. It was a good target, an appropriate target, and it was paying back quickly for him. But then the Swordmasters ended up getting into a fight without having had any damage prior to that. He focused on the Fireborn for probably a little too long. The Swordmaster also needed some damage to be done to it. Maybe focus fire by some Night Gobbler Archers and try and get a throw or two in from Debiggun, or come up and support that fight. Rather than sitting back there throwing, when he saw Teclis come into that fight and he sends in his War Boss, also send in Debiggun. Your War Boss is going to need some help in that fight. He can't do that alone. So allowing me to hit the War Boss and then exit the fight and get over to Debiggun, I think ends up being a big mistake here. Now, good game to both my opponents. Not trying to bash them here. I make lots of mistakes in these battles. I made mistakes in these particular battles, and I don't win every battle I play. In fact, I show you all battles that I lose from time to time, because clearly I'm not perfect at multiplayer, or else I'd be playing in all the tournaments and winning, which I'm not. However, I'm going to give you a couple thoughts real quick. Let's go into the custom battle screen so I can load up a couple armies for you and show you. Here's a couple. I call this one the Catch Elf Shrine build. This one's kind of a fun one against the High Elves. It's not a guarantee by any means, but it's an army that I like better than what my opponents had brought, because it, to me, is using some of the strengths of the Greenskins right now, which is in their massive ability to debuff things. Now, some players will probably think that this is a little bit overblown on the Greenskins right now with some power creep, and it may be, but here's what I would do, knowing what's in the game at the moment. A Catchweb Shrine with the Arachnarok Spriter and Little Wah is kind of a cool thing here, and it's because Little Wah has Gork'll Fix-It. This is a huge speed and charge speed debuff, as well as a charge bonus debuff, and you can combine that with Itchy Nuisance to take away a lot of melee attack and weapon damage. So the Catchweb Shrine has to be dealt with by an opponent, but it's poisoning, it's got Gork'll Fix-It, it's got Itchy Nuisance, and then when you surround it with another unit, you could put him on the Wolf to save a little cash, but I like the Spider because, again, more poison in case he needs to be present somewhere else. And I've combined it with They Need Stabbin'. This ability is probably a little bit too good. I mean, if anything, they might be able to just decrease the range a little bit to where it's closer to this guy rather than being 150 meter range. But it takes off 30 armor and 24 melee defense. This is another thing that's going to really cut a high elf leader or monster down to size. So think about Tyrion coming into that fight, all of a sudden getting hit by a Gork'll Fix-It, and then smacked with They Need Stabbin', and then eventually with the Mither, and he can't get away. He's getting smacked by, all these different things all at once. The Spider can beat back Tyrion better because it's got anti-large, and it becomes a tougher target for him to deal with. So anyway, this is just a thought. Goblins here for helping to trigger the Wah and acting as kind of a meat shield as needed. because you need more units in melee to get the wall going. Skulkers, good AP. These guys are also kind of a mire and a trap because they have a smoke bomb. So again, this is similar to Mither. Huge debuff to speed, though this one is actually tied to a small radius around the unit and is kind of cool in that respect. But these guys can help control the movement of certain units, either in the back lines or around the flanks. And then Goblin Fanatics, if you use the spinning loons well, you can cause a ton of damage to the frontline infantry of High Elves, and I mean a lot. And if you time it right too, sometimes you'll do damage to the frontline infantry and the loons will go far enough back in to hit archers and second line units. So you kind of have to look at how your opponent's deployed. It takes a little bit of micro to get these two units to do the work for you, but if they do, it can be well worth it because they can cause 25% or more damage with a good spinning loon on a unit. And if that's an expensive unit, then it can pay back very quickly off of this cheap goblin unit. A couple of Black Orcs. This is an option I put in here. You could rebuild this differently if you wanted to. But the Black Orcs cannot be terror routed by the High Elves, and they pack a wallop in melee. And then when you combine all these slowing effects with the now armor upgraded Boar Boy Biggins, now you have a lot of anti-large capability, and if a unit like Teclis comes in and gets slowed down, even though it can heal a lot, he could be in big trouble because he's going to be eating a lot of anti-large. Poison, slows, spells, debuffs. You can see how this would be used to pull down a dragon. Poison archers, for mobility. If an elf player brought a lot of cavalry to counter me, I would just try and screen a little bit with the light cavalry and use Gork'll Fix-It or something to try and counterplay their charges a little and hit them with the boars. So this is a build I like much better. There's another army here I put together with Skarsnik. Skarsnik could be a decent pick against the High Elves. I'm not saying he's going to always be a good pick, but there's a few reasons why. One, he's anti-large and poison by nature. He's a lord on foot, so he doesn't count as large, so anything with an anti-large bonus, he'll be having a harder time with him, while he is anti-large in return. So if you come attack him, there's a couple of dangers. One is this new ability he has, which is the fermented fungi. If you put this on a unit, and it could go into a rampage, and the way rampage works, I think, and we'll switch over to another army here and show a unit that has rampage. So let's pull up Lizardmen. And let's throw, for instance, a Feral Carnosaur in here. And here is Rampage. It says when this unit gets hurt, it may go on a rampage against nearby enemy units, thus you lose control of it. If you get this on a unit with enough damage and it causes the rampage, they lose control of their lord. This is huge. Some people would probably say it's even a little bit OP, shouldn't be that way, or at least not on the type of like 150 range or whatever this has, 100 meter range. Maybe it should be like a localized effect around him or something like that on contact. But whatever the case it is what it is, and Skarsnik is a big threat. Couple that again with the They Need Stabbin' on the Gobbo Pig Boss and Mither from the Troll Hag, and boy does your enemy have some problems. You can see I've got similar infantry, plenty of Boar Boy Biggins, and a Ragnarok for support. These are the types of Greenskin armies that I would want to roll with. Would it work every time? Probably not, especially with my micro. I mean, you all saw how I forgot a Spearman in the last battle. But I do think they're a lot better suited to fighting High Elves in their current state. You all tell me what you think. Have you gotten a chance to play this matchup yet? I mean, as is usual, we get these updates and these DLCs, and they usually almost every time go back and nerf stuff afterwards. So I don't know how much of this stuff will stay. I'm just saying, current state of the game, that's the kind of Greenskin stuff I would bring, I think, when fighting against the High Elves to give me little flexibility versus what my opponents brought. Again, not bashing them, just trying to throw something together here that gives you all some thoughts on how this could be played differently. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'll be back with more content soon.